There has been a ton of new information on Super Mario Party Jamboree over the last few weeks. The Japanese website update, a trailer welcoming Pauline to the party, minigame demos at PAX West, and of course, gameplay previews that recently dropped. Ahoy folks, and welcome to another Toontress analysis. As you can tell, we've got a lot to go over here. So Ritz, grab the magnifying glass, cause we're gonna comb through everything we can to find every secret, hidden detail, and anything else worth mentioning. So grab a snack and get comfortable folks, cause we're in for a long one. Starting off, let's talk about the character details. It has been confirmed that there are only 22 characters in the game. This had already been confirmed on the website before, but now we get a proper look at the character select screen. There are only 2 slots at the end for secret unlockable characters, which we know to be Ninji and Pauline. So our full roster is Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, Wario, Waluigi, Yoshi, Toadette, Toad, Rosalina, Pauline, DK, Birdo, Bowser, Goomba, Shy Guy, Koopa Troopa, Monty Mole, Bowser Jr., Boo, Spike, and Ninji, plus this random button over on the left. That means we're missing Dry Bones, Hammer Bro, Diddy Kong, and Pom Pom from the original Super Mario Party. But since then, we've gained Birdo from Mario Party Superstars, as well as Toad and Toadette from Star Rush, Spike from Mario Party 10, and newcomers Ninji and Pauline. Ninji notably doesn't have many sound effects or voice clips, which I suppose makes sense for a sneaky ninja character. They mostly make a bunch of quieter sound effects that sound more like swishes and bounces for their movement. Pauline, on the other hand, primarily uses voice clips from her appearances in Mario Kart, Mario Strikers, and other recent spin-off games. Her minigame victory animation references her original sprite from the Donkey Kong arcade game. She also did this animation in her performance of Jump Up Superstar back in Mario Odyssey. Honestly, I'm so happy she's here, and I fully intend to play as her quite a bit. But the sorting of the character select screen itself seems a bit odd to me. I get grouping the Mario Brothers, Peach and Daisy, Wario and Waluigi, but why aren't Yoshi and Birdo grouped like they usually are? And why is it Toadette first, then Toad? It's just strange. I can understand this entire top row being heroes or typically good characters, and then the bottom row mostly being villains. Though, nowadays, it feels weird to put DK and Birdo with villains. But I also want to touch upon the character voices. We can tell Mario and Luigi use new voice clips recorded by Kevin Afghani.
Let's do this! Let's go! It's a me! Let's go! Luigi!
Wario sounds new as well, and since Kevin provided his voice in WarioWare Move It, it's likely him once again, but with brand new voice clips.
Wario! Wario time!
While Luigi, I'm more mixed on. We do hear a few voice clips, and while some sound newer, some of them also sound like they're reused from older games.
Let's play!
Oh yeah!
Alright!
You got a star.
It's possible that it's all Kevin, and he's really nailing the role of Waluigi, but until we get to hear more in the game, it's hard to say for sure. We can also tell Daisy uses her new voice provided by Gazelle Fernandez since Mario Wonder, with some clips even being reused from that game. Some of Rosalina's voice clips also sound newer, but there are definitely a lot of reused voice clips from recent games, and some even from Super Mario 3D World. It's definitely the same voice actress though.
Yay! Oh!
And while not a voice, it is about character audio, so I wanted to include it here. Monty Mole makes a very specific sound as he walks around. and I really don't remember this being the case back in the original Super Mario Party, so that's kind of an interesting change. That about covers it for the playable characters, so let's move on to the Mario Party game mode, and talk about the board gameplay, general gameplay, and more. In terms of general gameplay flow, so far we've seen some rounds that are 10 turns and some that are 20. We can assume you can set 15 turns as well. We've even seen 25 turns after all. So here's hoping we can go up to 30 or even more. According to the end of the setup screen, 10 turns takes about 90 minutes, which is 30 minutes more than the estimate back from Mario Party Superstars. You can turn the bonus stars on and off, minigame rules can be toggled on and off, motion control minigames can be toggled, and you can choose the types of minigames, or have them all, which is a usual setting. At the start of a game, player order is determined by dice blocks just as usual. They then get displayed in order with a little character-specific splash screen, which is pretty charming. In terms of other UI, your distance from the star is always displayed in the upper left corner during your turn, and the general turn order is shown along the bottom in an organized line. The current player's turn is displayed larger in the lower left. Minigames and other board events get displayed down in the turn order as well, and when a turn ends, the order shifts along the bottom, so you can see the exact order it's all going to happen in. At the start of a turn, every character has a short, unique jingle play. Here's a few of them.
Mario time!
All right! All right!
Wario time!
All right!
All right!
I'm not really sure if any of these are references to anything, but I appreciate that each one is made to be distinct for each character. It's pretty charming. Players can once again use reactions, just like in Mario Party Superstars. But unlike in Superstars, they're no longer called stickers, and they look a bit different this time. Rather than the stylized hand-drawn 2D artwork, now the reactions look more like they were made with vector art based on character renders. Every character has 3 reactions of themselves, and then there are a few pages of some more. More than likely, there's a lot of them to unlock or to buy from the shop, just like in Mario Party Superstars. Here are all the reactions that I've seen, albeit many are small and hard to see. Sorry. Personally, I'm most fond of the crying penguin. I just love that one, I think it's pretty silly. I think my favorite aspect of the reactions, though, is that they're all well organized down at the very bottom of the screen. No longer are they really going to be blocking anything happening on screen. They're all very neatly down at the bottom, and that's a great upgrade. When it's minigame time, the 4 players get put on screen on their respective spaces. They then react as the minigame gets chosen. And when the minigame is selected, the rewards are actually shown before the transition. For a standard 4-player minigame, first gets the usual 10 coins, second gets 3, third gets 2, and fourth gets 0. For a 2v2 minigame, 20 coins go to the winning team, which would be 10 each, and 0 go to the losing team. Bonus minigames also happen randomly now, instead of every 5 turns, but you still get the double coin rewards. And after the minigame, the results are shown on pedestals, which reflect the actual order of 1st through 4th, and they change in real time. The board events can be sped up with the L and R button, just like in Superstars. And when you land on Bowser, if you're in 4th place and have less than 10 coins, he'll give you 10 coins, which is pretty standard, but it's still not something that everyone knows about. During the Final 5 event of the game, characters get ranked in 1st place through 4th place. Blue spaces and red spaces get doubled up, landing on the same space as an opponent starts a duel, you know, the standard stuff. And one player gets chosen to spin a special roulette. And from what we can translate here, a player can get a mushroom, maybe specifically 4th place. All players get twice as many coins. All players receive a star steal trap, which we actually see happen. All players receive a double dice, or more Bowser spaces get added to the map. And in a different clip, some additional options we see are to double the coins on red and blue spaces, which I wonder if that would bring them up to 9 coins or 12 coins, and to add more lucky spaces. There might be more here, but this is what we saw in this specific instance. But the biggest deal here is that this isn't a random roulette, but it's manually chosen. But moving into the boards, we're pretty sure that the 7 confirmed boards are the only ones in the game. New screenshots and footage from the Japanese website confirm that King Bowser's Keep, Mario's Rainbow Castle, and Western Land are all unlockable boards. Comparing the shot of the main island to the original reveal trailer, these were all under construction and missing before. So that means they show up after some sort of criteria gets met. Plus, if we look at the map of the various islands from the Japanese website, which may just be taken from an in-game menu screen for navigation, the entire upper section is for the different game boards, and they're pretty evenly spaced out, with not much room for any additional ones. Sure, maybe far off to the right here, but it seems unlikely. But anyway, we now know a bit more about all 7 boards too, so let's go over each one. So, Mega Wiggler's Tree Party is the first board in the game. This board was shown off in all the recent previews, and therefore, we know the most about how it works. These bells stationed around the map are activated by event spaces, and they momentarily wake Wiggler, who then moves along the circle to change the path. This can also be done with the board-exclusive Wiggler Bell item. There were a couple of event spaces tied to piranha plants. When landed on, you lose 5 coins. But then a water droplet makes the plant grow, and it'll take 1 more coin the next time. So I imagine if people keep landing on these spaces, they're gonna start taking a lot of coins. So maybe avoid those. As for these event spaces up top, you get to poke beehives to get honey, and if you're successful, you'll get coins. But you'll fail if the bees chase you. There are also 2 shops on this map, one standard shop near the start, and one chemic shop up near the top. The music in this board is also dynamic. It changes to a quieter lullaby when on the sleeping Mega Wiggler. It's a really cute attention to detail, just like this Wiggler decoration on top of the cake back here. It's just adorable, and feels like a lot of attention really went into this game. We've even gotten a look at what the map for this board looks like. It pretty much shows every space, point of interest, and more. Everything to interact with has a glow around it, such as the shops, Boo, and the event spaces. A few points of interest with the spaces though, there were only 2 versus spaces for battle minigames, and there's only 1 bad luck space, but 2 Bowser spaces. So is the bad luck space that much worse? The coin losses in the roulette are less than Bowser's, but you can also give coins to last place, or third place if you're in last. Also, there's this max out on lodestones option, but what are these? Some sort of negative item? It's hard to say, but these bad luck spaces have me intrigued as to just how unlucky they really are. Overall, Mega Wiggler's Tree Party is a pretty standard intro board, but one that I can see being a fan favorite. Moving on to Roll'em Raceway, we get to see most of the board, and a lot of it in action thanks to a tweet from Nintendo. As I previously theorized in my original Game Explain analysis, these event spaces catapult the player to the corresponding section. We see Daisy land in this green section, then get launched downwards, meaning she's getting sent over here. These red ones on the left send the player ahead a few spaces, and these blue ones all the way up here launch you back to the very beginning of the board. But interestingly, we've actually seen the event spaces swap. In another clip, we see these green ones on the right get swapped. So while in earlier clips we see the green section sends you ahead a few spaces, something can swap them so they may also send you back instead. This goes for the red and blue sections as well. When flipped, these blue spots by the start send you halfway across the map. So you'll need to keep an eye on when these sections are catapults and when they're landing sections. These event spaces up top also trigger a different movement-based event. This truck, driven by a bruiser, flies to the upper left and speeds through the entire upper path, then drives off to the right, forcing the players down to this blue space if they were along the upper path. There's a single shop on this board over here on the left, and a single Boo on the right in this tree stump. This pit stop down near the starting line is how players get a turbo dice, the board-exclusive item that lets them roll up to 40. Though we're still not sure what these event spaces down here do. While we see Luigi moving away from them with a turbo dice, I don't think he got it from this space, unless these spaces force it upon you for your next turn, while the stop is how you get them as an item. We also see that by passing the start, you get 10 coins from Koopa, but this isn't exclusive to Roll 'em Raceway. We just specifically see it in action here. On this board, we can see 2 spots where the star can spawn, thanks to outlines drawn on the ground, back here in the upper path, and on this bridge on the lower path. Both spots are about equal distance from the start of the board, but if all star locations get marked here on the board, then it can only spawn in these 2 spaces. So the board kinda reminds me of Mario Party 8's Shy Guy's Perplex Express, where the star was always in one spot at the head of the train, and then you'd have to manually loop all the way back to the end and then run through the train again. So the stars may always be in these 2 spots, and it's about reaching them with enough coins. Turbo Dice make you skip over board events, so you may even skip over the star if you're not careful. Miss the star from Turbo Dice, or not having enough coins, or getting chased away by the bruiser, you're gonna have to complete another lap to get another attempt. It's an interesting structure. Finally, there's a cute detail on this map near the start. You can see where each player is on the map. They get marked with colored flags associated with their cart. We see the blue flag here matches up with where Luigi, in the blue cart, started his turn, and these other flags reflect where the other players currently are. Moving on to Goomba Lagoon. Watching how Spike navigates the path up by the volcano feels very distinct for this board and its design, and it's just natural. It doesn't feel like something we would have had in any earlier Mario Party. Anyway, we finally get to see some of the board mechanics in action. This event space, and likely this one in the upper left, have the player sort of zipline down to the other side, as we see demonstrated by Daisy. These event spaces over here let the player go fishing, seemingly just for some coins, though maybe you can fish up an item too. The Goomba Volcano, which reacts when you walk up to it, can launch golden Goombas who land on various spaces along the board, and we can see that passing them gives you 5 coins. So it's kinda like Mario Party 8 adding coins to every space in the final 5. The volcano can also launch lava bubbles that land on various spaces, adding drops of lava to the board. And a rough translation here says the eruption caused the lava to fall onto the spaces. It's dangerous to touch them. You will lose 3 coins. Proceed with caution and avoid touching the lava bubbles. So, simply passing over these spaces will make you lose 3 coins, which means that when this happens, you're gonna need to plan your route carefully. Another big mechanic of this board is changing the water level. Looking at the general turn order along the bottom, we can see the water level rises and falls at the start of turns, after minigames. It may not happen every turn, however. We can see the UI along the bottom stays up during cutscenes, but during this clip of the eruption, the water level icon is missing, and only shows a minigame at the end of the turn. The same goes for these clips showing off the ally, so it likely isn't every turn, but when it's going to change, we'll see it. Sorta like the day-night cycle on Horrorland and Mario Party Superstars. Anyway, we can see in this clip it's going to rise next turn, and over here in this clip of Peach, it's going to lower at the end of the turn. But this clip of Peach shows us another way to change the water level, using this board exclusive item of the conch shell to change it instantly. Finally, as I pointed out in my original Game Explain analysis, there were 3 shops on this map, 2 normal ones and 1 run by Kamek, and there's also 2 booths at different ends of the map. Next up is Rainbow Galleria. We can see many items on display in different places here, but we'll come back to the specifics when we focus on talking about items. This shop up here is a fancy shop, which is run by a golden Goomba, and all of its items are golden. This right corner of the map has a Womp over here, with an event space right in front of it, but it's hard to say exactly what it'll do. As I pointed out in my original Game Explain analysis, there are stamp stations at 4 different points in this map, and now we can see them in action. As we can see, once you collect all of them, if you bring it to the front desk, you'll get 50 coins. The pink escalators are used to go up to higher floors, while the blue escalators are to descend to lower floors. I also previously pointed out this little lottery section that's reminiscent of Mario Party 4, with different colored balls granting different rewards. We can see Toadette getting the grand prize of the golden pipe item. The special mechanic on this board is the flash sale, which was previously outlined. Everything, including the star, and likely all items from any shop, all become half price. Unfortunately, there's not a lot more to say about this board for the time being. It's very item focused, and we'll come back to those later. Next up is King Bowser's Keep. Now that we finally get a better look at the board, we can learn a lot more about it than just from the reveal trailer. As a cute detail, there's the truck driven by the Bruiser in Roll'em Raceway getting repaired over here. Anyway, the main square loop around the giant Bowser is a conveyor that can change directions. It may happen naturally or from board events, but it can be triggered anytime by this board exclusive item that we see Mario use. There's some sort of event that makes a bunch of Bowser spaces spawn along the loop as well. This may be the Bowser event that we can see will happen after the next minigame down here. There are 2 Kamek shops on this map. One down here right by the start, and one up here in the loop. And one standard shop in the upper left. This spinning cog has a stopping point next to it. Presumably, if you pass by it, you're gonna collect whatever is closest to you. So we can see Yoshi take the 3 coins, and then it turns to the 10 coins, which would be what the next person to pass it takes. The bomb would likely make whoever passes by it lose some coins. This gate on the right over here requires a skeleton key to pass through. It may not be the only one on this board though, just the only one that we can currently see. There's also this section on the left with bullet bills. We can see a single event space in the middle of both of these rows. Presumably, these set off the bill blasters and make players lose coins or something. There's a giant Mecha Koopa battle in the upper right, but what does it do? More than likely, you're gonna have to roll a dice block against it, and what you roll, you deal as damage. And this one has 7 total HP. We can actually see another one of these down on the bottom right of the loop, but this one is against a normal Mecha Koopa, with only 3 HP. And as I pointed out in my Game Explain analysis, there are warp pipes in this map. This red warp pipe back here by the lava lets out in front of the Bowser over here, and the green warp pipes in the upper left and right corners let out back by the start. Moving on to Mario's Rainbow Castle. Whenever the tower up top changes from Toad to Bowser, the scenery turns darker and more stormy. The shop changes from the standard Koopa Run shop to Kamek's shop, so the item selection would change out too. But when would it change? It doesn't seem to be one of the regular events in the turn order down here, and all players have 10 coins with no stars. So, like the original board, it likely changes from event spaces. So, maybe Waluigi landed on one on his very first turn. Notably, Daisy has this item shaped like the Tower of Rainbow Castle. Maybe this is an item exclusive to this board to force the change as well. Otherwise, it seems to be the same board that we know from the original Mario Party. There's also this cute detail of this Koopa Paratroopa sleeping over here. Finally, we have Western Land. The Hootenanny at the Wiggler's Milk Bar now seems to be set off by 2 different event spaces, rather than an option when passing by it like a shop. There's a Kamek shop down along the bottom, right in front of the train. There's also a standard shop over here, and another in the upper right, although it's a bit obscured in this view. The direction for the train is now displayed with arrows, rather than character heads. And there's a new ticket booth to stop at up here. Maybe it gives a board-exclusive item to ride the train for free? Though you probably still have to pay for the ticket itself. Okay, now that we've talked extensively about each individual board, there are quite a few other gameplay elements to talk about. Firstly, items. According to the Japanese website, there are 37 items in total, which is a huge amount for Mario Party. But does this number factor in items used in side modes? Well, let's take a look at the items found in the main party mode. Starting off with the items returning from previous Mario parties that we've seen so far. Skeleton keys to unlock gates, mushrooms to add 5 to your roll, double dice to roll 2 dice blocks, triple dice to roll 3 dice blocks, cursed dice, which are now called the creepy dice. These still limit the target player's next roll to 1 through 3. Custom dice, which allow you to manually choose to move 1 to 10 spaces, warp block to swap places with a random opponent, Boo Bell to summon Boo to steal coins or a star from another player, Item Bag to get 3 random items, the Golden Pipe to warp directly to the star, the Chomp Call to summon Chain Chomp to move the star, the Dueling Glove to duel another player for coins, the Plunder Chest to steal an item from another player, the Hidden Block card, which spawns a hidden block, which could have coins or a star inside, and the Bowser Phone, which you use to call Bowser on an opponent, basically making them land on a Bowser space. This is kinda cool, because this item was last seen back in Mario Party 3. There are a ton of new items that we've seen too, including the Super Creepy Dice, which limits all opponents to a roll of 1 through 3 on their next turn. The Pipe, which is a warp pipe that moves you to a random space, sort of like the warp dice from Mario Party DS. The Shop Hop Box, which moves you to a random item shop. The Payday Double Dice, which grants coins equal to the number rolled with 2 dice blocks. The Payday Triple Dice, which grants coins equal to the number rolled with 3 dice blocks. And presumably, that means there's a version with just 1 dice block. We can also see the Payday Dice and Golden Pipe on display in the fancy shop in Rainbow Galleria. This won't be the only way to get these items, but it may be the only dedicated store selling the Payday Dice blocks. There's also some sort of mushroom ticket or coupon. We never really get a good look at it, but I suspect it'll let you get a discount on an item in the shop, or maybe even get you a free mushroom if you go past a shop with one. A rough translation of this French screenshot indicates that you can exchange the coupon for a mushroom, but what does this 2 to 4 coupons mean? Since, realistically, you wouldn't be able to hold on to 4 coupons, as there's only 3 item slots. Moving on, there are also traps, basically like hexes from Mario Party DS, or some of the orbs that you can place on spaces from Mario Party 6 and 7. But unlike then, it seems that these can go on any space. We even see them get placed on event spaces. Could you imagine a trap placed on a Bowser space to add insult to injury? There's the Star Steal trap, which steals 1 star from whoever lands on the trap, the 10 coin trap, which likely steals 10 coins from whoever lands on it, and the half coin trap, which likely steals half the coins of whoever lands on it. Going off of the hexes from Mario Party DS, maybe we can also see a 20 coin trap, a coin swap trap, and a space swap trap. Moving on, there's some sort of mirror item. We've yet to actually see it in action. But what if it's an anti-boo item? There's also another mirror item, but gold framed, so some sort of scarier or stronger version of it. But we still don't know what they do, unfortunately. If the mirror is an anti-boo item, maybe the gold reverses it, so it steals from whoever activated the boo. And finally, there's the lodestone, mentioned and obtained from the unlucky space, but we have no idea what it actually does. What would make it so terrifying that there's an unlucky space item to max out on them? There are also a bunch of items that seem to be exclusive to specific boards. Some of these we went over on their respective boards, but to run through all the ones we know, there's the Wiggler Bell, which is exclusive to Mega Wiggler's Tree Party, which moves the Mega Wiggler, and it's functionally identical to landing on an event space for the bells. There's also the Turbo Dice Block, which is exclusive to Roll'em Raceway and allows you to roll 4 dice blocks. There's this conch shell, and while we don't know the name of this item, it is exclusive to Goomba Lagoon. It changes the water level instantly. I wonder if people are going to be stocking up on these, and constantly changing the water level to mess with each other, almost like we're in Ocarina of Time's Water Temple or something. An interesting one is this 200% sticker. I'm not entirely sure if this is board exclusive, but so far we've only seen it on Rainbow Galleria, and it makes the most sense to be exclusive here. It forces the targeted player to pay double the price on anything they buy on their next turn, including for stars. There's also some sort of lever, which is exclusive to King Bowser's Keep, and it changes the direction of the conveyor belt in the central area. We also pointed out this exclusive item in Mario's Rainbow Castle that looks like the top of the Rainbow Castle itself, and it's only been seen held by Daisy, so more than likely it forces the swap between Toad and Bowser. Finally, there's the exclusive item in Western Land, which might be some sort of train ticket. We don't know for sure if it's an item, but it very likely is, and it perhaps allows the players to ride the train for free. Counting up all of these items we went over, including the few speculatory ones like the single payday dice and a few more traps, we're at about 35 items. So there's probably 37 specifically in the main party mode, and any from the side modes don't count towards that grand total. Now that we've talked extensively about the items, it's time we move on to another major gameplay mechanic. Ala has returned from the original Super Mario Party, but in a very different way. This time around, they're called Jamboree Buddies. Seemingly, they don't spawn very often. It looks like there will only ever be one on a board at a time, and there's only 3 turns to get them before they go away. Every buddy has a different special ability. Mario rolls his custom dice to add somewhere between 3 to 8 to your roll. Luigi gives you an easier time rolling bigger numbers when you hit the dice. Daisy allows you to purchase items at half the cost from shops, while Luigi steals 3 to 8 coins from any opponents that you pass. And DK moves you to a random space before hitting the dice. A friend of mine also let me know exactly what Yoshi's ability is, although I can't show any footage on screen. According to the in-game menu, it reads, while moving, copy items from opponents you pass. So if you get Yoshi, your opponents with golden pipes better watch out. In addition to the character's specific abilities, when you have an ally, many actions happen twice. If you stop at a shop, you can buy 2 items. If you get a star, you could buy 2 stars. And if you land on a red space, you're gonna lose 6 coins instead of just 3. Presumably, this also goes for gaining coins from a blue space as well. There's likely more actions that can double up, but this is all that we've seen thus far. When someone reaches the ally, it starts a showdown minigame. These seem to be character-specific minigames where the winner obtains the ally. Whoever initiated the minigame gets a small advantage, usually in the form of extra points. Some of these seem more like a series of minigames though. Mario's seems to be a game of Leaf Leap, and the player who jumps the highest gets Mario. But we've also seen Mario participating in Shy Guy Says and Bumper Balls. So maybe you do all 3. But these 3 don't transition between each other as well as some of the other ones do, so it's a bit strange. Or maybe any of these 3 show up for characters that don't get their own dedicated minigame. Luigi's minigame involves solving puzzles in a haunted mansion to rescue Luigi, and these different puzzles can be sorting pictures in order, stepping on the right tile, spotting the odd one out, and moving the objects to reach the other side. It looks like there's 9 total rooms to get to Luigi. Daisy's minigame is a platforming minigame to obtain Daisy tokens. There's at least 4 different sections to it, and it's all obstacle course themed over water, and they all seem to be in 30-second intervals. It starts off by jumping between a bunch of different platforms, and sometimes they dip into the water. Eventually, this transitions into larger spinning and moving platforms. Then it becomes more like a survival minigame, before eventually changing into a giant rolling cylinder that you have to stay on. There might be more to it, but that's all we've seen. It seems like a pretty long one. Waluigi's minigame has you playing pinball in an arcade, in a Waluigi pinball themed cabinet, of course. You're working to score points and collect Waluigi tokens, which we can see over here. Donkey Kong's is a rhythm-based minigame on bongos, and the advantage is getting a slightly easier time matching the rhythm, rather than getting bonus points. Once the ally has been claimed, they stick around for 3 turns. But by passing a player with an ally, you steal the ally from them, so you need to make your time with the ally count, and try to strategize to avoid having them stolen away from you, or strategize to steal them back. When we talk more about minigames later in this video, we'll go over some other ally minigames that we're pretty sure we can spot, but these are the only ones we've gotten detailed pretty well now. We do know that there are 10 of these minigames though, so could some be generic that any character could be a part of? Or maybe not every character can become an ally. At the end of a round of Mario Party, obviously there's always a results screen, and thanks to the Japanese website, we can get a good look at what the results look like. It displays everyone's progress with stars on a graph, with the x-axis reflecting the amount of turns and the y-axis reflecting the amount of stars. This final bit here are changes due to bonus stars. We can see Bowser and Luigi both got a bonus star, so presumably that means there were only 2 given out at the end once again. And then the screen changes to show the winner. Now that we've talked extensively about the main Mario Party mode, let's take a look at the other modes in the game before we dive into the minigames. The first mode to focus on is Koopathlon, which can be played with up to 20 other players. Players run around the map for 5 laps, with each coin earned in minigames moving them another space forward. There were 3 coin minigames in rotation each round, followed by a Bowser survival minigame, which gets chosen in a scene reminiscent of Mario Party 10. The Bowser minigame sends losing players back by a different amount of spaces depending on their placement. During gameplay, players can affect their opponents with different items. We've seen Kamek, who locks the player in place for a few seconds until they mash a button to get out, Blooper, who sprays an opponent with ink, blocking their screen for a few seconds, and Amp, who shocks opponents, but we're not quite sure how this affects them. Maybe it stuns them for a second or 2 and they can't move. As for minigames that we've seen during Koopathlon, we've seen this whack-a-mole with mechanical Monty Moles. Hitting each one gives a point, with more earned from golden ones. Which door has more, where you need to enter the door depicting the most of a specific creature in the room. Brick Breaker, where you move shells around to break bricks depicting 8-bit sprites, such as Mario and Goomba. Another tasks you with removing the baked bread, where you take bread out of the oven with good timing, not too early or too late. There's also a rail-based racing minigame, where you need to change between 5 different lanes to get coins and avoid obstacles such as amps. There's also a minigame running up a hill, where spikes are throwing spiked projectiles down the hill, and you need to collect the coins running up and down the hill while avoiding the obstacles. There's also an arcade-like game pushing plush characters and objects off the conveyor, and a cannon-based minigame where you're firing your character higher into the sky to get coins, and a puzzle-based minigame, where you clear the board to get coins. You can encase bombs to blow them up and earn more coins. It plays a lot like Mario Party 5's dual minigame, Peace Out. Beyond the coin minigames, these are the Bowser minigames that we've seen in Koopathlon. Burning bridges, where fireballs fire from both sides, and players must jump over them with good timing. There's also one where you're running away from Bowser as the ground gives out, seen in the original trailer. There's also a survival minigame where Bowser makes the ground disappear with the press of a button. This one looks to get pretty fast-paced. Another minigame has you climbing up poles to avoid rising lava, and you'll also need to avoid bullet bills and bonsai bills. There's also one where you're watching the 3 chests get shuffled around by the giant Bowser, and you need to choose the right one. While we've yet to see an entire round of Koopathlon, we've definitely seen quite a bit of it, but I wonder just how much of it remains to be seen. The next side mode to get detailed is Bowser's Kaboom Squad. This is an 8-player co-op mode where players work together to take out the giant imposter Bowser. And yes, this Bowser we see everywhere is officially called Imposter Bowser. Alright. The level shown off is called Charge and Chucks, who just happen to be the main obstacle other than the Imposter Bowser. These Charge and Chucks roam around the board, targeting players to damage them. Players have 90 seconds to run around, break crates, and load the cannon with bombs to attack Bowser. Players get put in bubbles when they're hit and must be rescued by surviving players. After 90 seconds, the progress gets shown, and then it's minigame time. All 8 players have to work together to get the best rank that they can. Depending on the rank, the item rewards are better. After the minigame, players get to choose what item they want. After enough of this, and once his health is low enough, Imposter Bowser drops a star. Players then have to mash the punch button to deal the final blow. Some of the items that we've seen here include the dash panel, which can be placed to speed players up when touched, the hammer to break crates faster, the iron hammer, which is an even stronger hammer, the banana peels, which make Bowser slip and fall, stunning him momentarily, hearts, which can be placed on the ground, and when touched, revive players stuck in bubbles, the glove, which lets players carry more bombs, and some sort of lightning item. We're not really sure what this does, but it most likely affects Bowser. In terms of the 8-player co-op minigames that we've seen, there's this apple juice minigame where 3 players pick apples, 2 players juice them, and 3 players load the truck. There's a pirate ship cannonball minigame where everyone's working together to shoot a bunch of targets on a passing ship. There's this minigame where players are working together to defend a gate from a series of bombs, and you need to pick up the bombs and throw them into the water. Next is this rhythm minigame Racing Against Wiggler, where you're alternating L and R with good timing. Next is this volleyball minigame, where you're sending the ball between teammates to get it to the far end on the right. There's also this 8-player looking minigame, where players must look in the direction that the arrow points. We've also seen this slots minigame, where players must hit the button with good timing to get the chosen picture in the roulette, in this case, the mushroom. One of the more interesting ones we've seen is this washing minigame, where 1 player is assigned to washing the chain chomp, while the other 7 work together to fix leaks in the pipes. Kinda feels like a fusion of several minigames from earlier Mario Party games. Finally, we have this minigame where everyone's working together to make a picture, specifically of a dragon eel, bloopers, and other undersea creatures. The fact that Bowser's Kaboom Squad is co-op focused has me intrigued, though I'm not sure how popular the mode will be. We'll have to see when the game comes out, but it's clear that there's a bit of depth to the mode at the very least. Next, let's take a look at the minigame mode, with all sorts of ways to play minigames. And this section is called Minigame Bay. This island is filled with several different smaller scale minigame modes, one of which is the Daily Challenge, which offers 3 different groups of 3 minigames to run through, which rotate out daily. You can play this mode locally or online with random players, and back at PAX West, I got to try these out. One such group is Minigame Munchies with 3 food-based minigames, including Prime Cut, a 2v2 minigame where you're working to make the perfect cut of steak, Cookie Cutter, a 1v3 working to cut the most cookies out of the dough, and Sandwich, a free-for-all survival minigame where you're avoiding being crushed by sandwiches. Just saying, this was probably my favorite of the 6 I've gotten to personally play. It just felt like an instant classic. We also got to try Master Strategist with 3 strategy-based minigames, including Tricky Turntable, a 2v2 coin minigame working to rotate the core mechanism to get coins, where you strategize against your opponents, Sunset Standoff, a 1v3 where one player drives a giant bonsai bill to hit the other players, and Hot Cross Blocks, a free-for-all where all players are working to make a bridge across the lava. You strategize for the piece you need to continue your bridge, or stop someone else from making theirs. Another category we saw is Give 'em Space, which are 3 space-themed minigames. There were other groups of the daily challenge, and probably other minigames to fit into these categories, but those are the only ones that we've seen so far. There's also a 2v2 mode run by Boom Boom, which challenges 2 teams of pairs to get through a bunch of 2v2 minigames. Pom Pom runs the survival minigame mode, where you play against opponents in survival-based minigames, and winning gives points towards increasing your rank. The next one is described as the Challenge Battle, and translating the description of the website indicates that these are showdown minigames for the Jamboree buddies. You'll play consecutive minigames themed to specific characters, but since this is a minigame mode, you won't get them as an ally, of course. The clip from the Japanese website also gives a look at Bowser Jr.'s showdown minigame, where you need to survive a bunch of small missions from Bowser Jr. as he floats around in the background. Sometimes you'll have to catch chickens, and other times you'll have to dodge amps. And finally, we have Free Play, which gives us a look at 112 minigames all lined up on screen. And it seems like this is all of them. So before we start talking about any more specific minigames, let's group them up by type here. There are 29 free-for-all minigames, 12 1 vs 3 minigames, 12 2v2 minigames, 5 duel minigames, 5 item minigames, 10 showdown minigames, 10 8-player co-op minigames, 14 Koopathlon minigames, which are 9 coin and 5 Bowser, 10 rhythm minigames, and 5 locked or hidden minigames. Since there are 112 minigames, we're not going to sit here and talk about every minigame in depth, but we've already talked about quite a few of them, and there's a lot that we've actually already seen in various gameplay too. In particular, all of these have gameplay seen from websites, previews, trailers, and more. There are a few aspects I do want to talk about here though. Firstly, there are 10 total minigames returning from previous Mario Party games. From the original Mario Party, there's Treasure Divers and Platform Peril. From Mario Party 4, there's Domination, 3-Throw, Stamp Out, and Blame It on the Crane. From Mario Party 5, there's Defuse or Lose. And from Mario Party 6, there's Granite Getaway, Snow Brawl, and Jump the Gun. Next, these item minigames are played by landing on item spaces, as the roulette might land on playing a minigame. Next, let's talk about the showdown minigames. Mario's we detailed earlier, and now that we see only Leaf Leap on the menu with all the minigames, it confirms that Bumper Balls and Shy Guy Says must be part of it. And it's fun that these are all built off of classic iconic minigames, so it makes sense for them to be tied to Mario then. Luigi's we detailed earlier. Peach's minigame seems to involve delivering donuts to her table. Maybe it's about getting their orders correct. Daisy's we detailed earlier, but Wario's looks very hard to see. It looks like we're completing pictures of Wario. While Luigi's minigame we already talked about. Yoshi's minigame is the Yoshi race that we've seen before, where all the players are all riding on different Yoshis. Rosalina's looks to be a snowboarding minigame, and seemingly also a race against Rosalina. Donkey Kong's minigame was talked about earlier, and Bowser Jr.'s was also talked about earlier. That's all 10, and those 10 might be the only allies, as that's a decent amount of characters when you think about it. Bowser doesn't necessarily need another dedicated minigame, as he's Bowser. There's already a lot of Bowser minigames. And while that leaves out most of the enemies, Toad, Toadette, and a few others, maybe not every character can be a Jamboree buddy. Not everyone can be an ally. It might just be these 10. These are pretty much the core characters after all. I wouldn't be surprised if this was it. And with how hyper-specific some of these minigames are, I can't see many of them being swapped out for random characters, except basically just Mario's. Moving on, the rhythm minigames down here are all part of the rhythm mode that we know exists in the game, which is based around foods. And from what we could see, most of these are indeed based around foods. But there's one last section here with the minigames to talk about, these locked, hidden minigames. What could these 5 actually be? Well, there's one minigame that we've seen that isn't on here at all, a boss battle against a giant sting bee. So there may actually be some sort of single player mode or special mode that has bosses. Maybe it's tied to this section in Minigame Bay. The first time we saw it, this cave was blocked off, but now it's cleared. So maybe there's something back here involving bosses. Or there's some other single player mode, just like the original Super Mario Party, but this one in particular has bosses. Regardless, I'm feeling pretty confident that there's probably 5 boss minigames, and that's what goes on here. Okay, we're almost done here, but there's a few more smaller details that I want to touch on before we wrap up. The first being Mario Party points. The usual currency for use in the main menus is back. But what's it used for this time? This page makes mention of the Mario Party card shop. So maybe the Mario Party cards are back from Superstars, with more customizability that you can get in the shop. Or maybe the points are how you can unlock the 3 different boards and 2 characters. This was the case back in some earlier games, like Mario Party 6 and Mario Party 7. This might also be for a music player, so maybe songs in the game can be unlocked and listened to, which has also happened in earlier games. So, needless to say, there might be a variety of unlockables here. But there's also achievements, and it seems like there might be 50 in total. Next up, the music. While the music for the returning minigames has definitely been redone, the victory fanfare is the same for all minigames. Not like Superstars, where every victory fanfare was redone from the original games.
Winners!
Finally, one last little detail here. Plessy is in a minigame, and that just makes me really happy. I'm glad Nintendo's using them more, and I hope this keeps up. And with that, that is everything I could find from all of the recent info on Super Mario Party Jamboree. I am unbelievably excited for this game, and this analysis has been a lot of fun to work on over the last week. Thank you guys so much for watching. There was a lot to go over, so it's entirely possible that I missed something. So I encourage you, if you notice something I missed, or you have any thoughts on anything discussed here, please let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell for plenty more gaming goodness from me. It all really helps out a ton. But until next time, farewell everyone.